All right. So, hi, David. Good evening. How are you? Is everything okay?
Good evening, teacher. Uh,
Are you better? Are you feeling better now, or are you still sick, David?
I still sick, but I am a little better than yesterday.
Okay, that's good to know, David. All right, I'm going to start the class with you. So here we're not going to practice speaking that much, but we're going to write some exercises. And in case we need to practice speaking, you're just going to speak the amount of things that you need to say. All right?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, good. So let's begin. Um, As always, I'm going to give you some reminders. We're going to see what we did the last class, and we're going to go to the last lesson for this unit. That is going to be gerunds. So before going there, I'm going to show you Pearson, right? You know that it's very important to work with Pearson. Today at 11:59 p.m. is going to be the last chance to finish the assignments for the second unit. And the second quiz is already assigned. Okay, so you have until today at 11:59 p.m. to complete all the assignments for the second unit, and until Sunday at 11:59 p.m. again to take the second quiz. All right, that's the first part. Then it's important to remember that this unit we've been practicing with these elements over here, and I'm going to show you. Mainly three things, and I'm going to show you the vocabulary that you should practice as well. Passive voice, right? We've been learning about passive voice, how to form the passive voice, and we've been practicing with that. Quantifiers, a lot, a few, little, many, much, even some, any. And today we're going to learn about gerunds. This is the verb plus gerund and verb plus infinitive, but here we're going to remember gerunds, and we're going to learn about some special words, special verbs that can be different if you use them with gerund or with infinitive. All right, so that's what we did, and that's what we're going to do today as well. If you have any questions about Pearson or about this information, you can let me know. If not, I think we're going to go directly to the practice. As always, I'm going to share the link. It's in the chat a bit. So as soon as we finish learning some things with this presentation, we're going to write some examples. So let me open the presentation, and it's this one over here. I'm going to try to ask you to read some of this or write a bit just for practicing and in order to learn about gerunds. So gerund is like another structure that we have for verbs, right? You know that we have the base form, we have the infinitive, and we have the gerund. Those are the three main structures that we have for verbs. Gerunds is one of the most common ones related to subjects and prepositions, and we're going to know that. Perhaps you already know, but we're going to reinforce that knowledge. To be sure, please, David, I'm going to ask you to read this definition, please.
Okay. Gerunds are words that are formed with verbs but act as nouns. They were very easy to spot since every gerund is a verb with ing tagged to its tail. There are no exceptions to this rule.
Thank you very much, David. So easy, right? A gerund are words that are formed with verbs. For example, eat. Eat is a verb. But the gerund with ing, eating, is not going to be a verb anymore. That's going to be considered as a noun. All right. So gerunds are not the present continuous. Gerunds are something different, and we use the gerund in a different way. All right. There's a difference then. The writing is the same. I am eating, that's present continuous, right? I am eating. But if you say eating is something that I love, then eating is not a verb. Eating is a noun. All right. So gerunds are different. In this case, they are considered as nouns. Here, well, this is something I'm going to read. Gerunds can be used as subjects. We're going to learn that, and I'm sure that you know that one as well. Objects and after prepositions. All right, those are the three main usages for gerunds. They can be used as subjects, as objects, and after all prepositions, which is very important to know. Let's learn the first type, and this is similar to the infinitive. If you remember, David, and everybody that's watching the class, the infinitive is a very, very formal way to use like a subject, right? As a subject. To run is my favorite exercise. Okay, but that's too formal. Okay, people are not going to say that. That's too formal. That's for writing and for academic writing. But in general English, it's better to use the gerund as the subject of your sentence. And it says, right, as they are nouns, they can be used as subjects. Let's read these three examples, please, David, before practicing.
Okay. Learning English is very easy. Running is my favorite activity. Listening to music is what I love.
Thank you very much, David. So if you realize, sorry, if you realize, this is the same as with infinitives. You need first the gerund. The gerund can be alone, or the gerund can be with an object. Learning, or in this case, learning English. Then you have the verb to be, is, because it's one action, right? Learning English. And then you have the complement. And it's the same with all of them. Here, for example, you only have the gerund, running. Then you have the verb to be, is, and then you have the complement, my favorite activity. And the same here, but this time you have again the gerund plus one object. Listening to music, then the subject, sorry, the verb, and finally the complement, what I love. All right, so if you realize it's exactly the same as infinitives, but gerunds are more common. They are also formal, but not as formal as the infinitive. And it's the best option, all right? If you want to use an activity, a verb as a noun, as an activity, the best option is the gerund over the infinitive. So if you have any questions, please, David, let me know. If not, let's work on only a couple of examples. We can write two examples using the gerund, all right, as the subject of your sentence. Let's do it, please, David. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If not, we're going to have like 1 minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes to finish this. Let's do it, please.
Okay, teacher.
Hello, Fabiana. Just in case, what we're doing here is that we're learning about gerunds, and we are using the gerunds in the same way that we were using the infinitives, Fabiana. Remember, we used infinitives as subjects, and we said something like, to eat pasta, right, is my favorite activity, let's say. I don't know, right? To read or to do exercise is very important for our health, right? With infinitives, to do, to eat. Here we're doing exactly the same, but we're learning that we can also use gerunds, all right? In this case, learning, doing, eating, running, and we can use gerunds as the subject of our sentences. And they are more common, even more common than the infinitives. What we're doing now is only write two examples, please, Fabiana. We're going to write two examples using the infinitive as the subject of the sentence. Then we need a verb, and a complement. Let's do it, please, Fabiana. And if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, I think we have the examples with you, David. So let's start reading yours, please. Let's read the two examples that you got.
Okay. Eating pizza is my favorite activity in the world. Reading books is a good activity for practicing English.
Thank you very much, David. Good. So we have this, right? It's not hard. We have the gerund plus the object, in this case, eating pizza, and in this case, reading books. Good. And both are activities, right? So, and you are like highlighting that fact by saying my favorite activity in the world, which I agree is good. And this one, the only thing, as I was saying to Fabiana, it's okay to say for. It's a good activity for, because the idea of something is good for is valid. You have also the option that is more common to use infinitive, as I was telling to Fabiana before. And you can say, right, reading books is a good activity to practice English. If you believe that that's reason and that's purpose at the same time, you can use the infinitive instead of the preposition. All right, but now that you're using the preposition, you are using the gerund as well over here, which is also good. All right, so we can use both, and that's great. Do you have any questions about this part, David? If you do, let me know. If not, that's it, and it's great.
No, I understand that. In fact, I was thinking about to put to practice, and
Okay.
for practicing, and I decided to put for practicing.
Okay, very good. And in this case, both work because the activity, right, and the idea of being good for something, it's also valid. Thank you, David. Great. Now we're going to try to work with you, Fabiana. Let's read your activities or your examples, please.
Okay. Dancing is my favorite hobby. Working is hard, but it is necessary to earn money.
Okay, great. Again, you're using this as purpose with infinitive, and it's very, very good. This one, remember, this is going to be interesting because as working is the subject, is the verb, and hard is the complement, that's one complete idea, right? So here you have two complete ideas. And as you have two complete ideas, we're going to use comma, then but, it is necessary to earn money. That's the second complete idea that is talking about the same thing, working, but you're using two times the subject. So it means that we can use the comma and one of the fanboys, right? In this case, but. That's it, Fabiana. I agree with your sentences. Do you have any questions about this? Let me know, please.
No.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be easy, right? The first part that we're going to do here, it's easy. Then we're going to do some review, and we're going to learn about special verbs. It's not going to be something long. If we finish the class before, then we're going to do it. You're going to have time perhaps to finish your assignments or whatever you are missing, all right? But again, if you don't have any questions, we're going to keep going because I think that this is going to be something easy to understand. This is the second part, object. When we say object, the same as with infinitives, we are saying that after certain verbs, the objects that we use for those verbs are infinitives or gerunds. And in this case, all these verbs require the gerund after the verb. Enjoy, that's one. Discuss, dislike, finish, mind, suggest, recommend, keep, and avoid. After those verbs, you are to use the gerund. Okay, and you're going to notice that after all of those verbs, it doesn't matter the tense, you have the gerund. All right, so please, we're going to read this with you, Fabiana. Let's read everything that is marked, please.
Okay. Object. We have to use gerunds after some verbs. Enjoy. I enjoyed living in France. Discuss. We discussed going on holiday together. Dislike. I dislike waiting for buses. Finish. We've finished preparing for the meeting. Mind. I don't mind coming early.
Thank you, Fabiana. So after these verbs, we are going to use the gerund with this one verb, which is, one verb plus ing. That is not a verb anymore, is more a noun, right? More a noun than a verb. Let's keep going, please, David, and let's finish with these 4 examples.
Suggest. He suggested staying at the Grand Hotel. Recommend. They recommended meeting earlier. Keep. He kept working, although he felt ill. Avoid. She avoided talking to her boss.
Thank you very much, David. So those are the verbs. We have more verbs, but as I did with infinitives, right, you have a list of verbs. You can try to check that list of verbs and memorize which verbs are used with infinitives and which ones are used with gerunds. All right, that's very important because, for example, enjoy. The only possible good way to write a sentence with enjoy is if the next verb is with gerund. It's incorrect to say I enjoyed live in France. Incorrect. I enjoyed to live in France. Incorrect. Okay, the only possible option is saying I enjoyed living in France. There are some verbs that can be used with gerund or infinitive, and they are kind of the same. And it's not a mistake. For example, like, even finish, all right? This verb over here. Finish can be with infinitive. You have also like, as I was telling you, all right? Like can be with infinitive. Start can be with infinitive and gerunds, all right? So there are like 4 or 5 verbs that they talk about that: starting, beginning something, finishing something, all right? Or liking something. Those can be with gerund or infinitive, and it's the same, and they are okay, right? If you say, I like to play soccer, I like playing soccer, it's correct, all right? But most of them, like the ones we have over here, even dislike sometimes, but most of the time is the best option is this one. Finish, I told you it can be with infinitive, but all of the rest of them that are here, we have some exceptions, but they are not here. I'm going to show you after this. But besides those exceptions, all of those verbs over there need the gerund. All right. So please, let's practice. Again, they can be in any tense, David and Fabiana. We're going to get to the part that is a little bit harder. So this one, it's easy because you see those verbs. After those, you have to use the gerund. Let's work with 4 sentences in this case, please, to practice tenses. Let's have one sentence in the present, okay, with any of those verbs. One in the present, one in past, one in present perfect, right? That is past again, but it's indefinite past, and one in future. All right, so please, let's write 4 sentences with these verbs that need gerund. Again, one in simple present or present continuous, it's up to you. The other one or another one in the simple past, the next one in the present perfect, and the last one in the future. It can be simple future or it can be the future we'll be going to. All right, so let's work on that. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, again, we're going to have 2 minutes for this one, or even 3 minutes, And if you finish before, we're going to check it. Let's do it, please.
Teacher, I have a question about this.
Yes. Yes, tell me, David.
We have to use gerund when these verbs are in past. Maybe I see enjoyed, enjoyed, discussed, discussed. Maybe they are in past, or we have to use it even when they are in present. Maybe
Yes, actually.
Sorry. Maybe I finish my work, maybe, or I finish my dinner or something like that.
Okay, thank you, David. So the question actually is going to be answered in this way, that it doesn't matter the tense, all right? They can be present, it can be past, it can be future. It's always going to be with the gerund, all right? For example, there you have most of the examples in past, right? Suggested, enjoyed, discussed, but it's just because they are in past. But if you say, for example, in general, right? And you may say in third person, she enjoys dancing every weekend. Okay, it's enjoys, simple present, and it's always going to be with gerunds. All right, so it doesn't matter if it's in past, in present, or in future, these verbs, except for finish, all right, but all of the rest, they have to be with the gerund. All right, it doesn't matter if they are in present, in past, or in future again. All right.
Yes, that's why I was confused, because when finished, there are some sentences that I hear that were not with gerund.
Yeah, exactly. There are some exceptions like finish, start, begin, like, and there's one more. I don't remember that one now, but there are 5, maximum 6 verbs that they can be used with either one, and they are okay. All right. But the rest of the verbs, they are going to be either with gerund, either with infinitive, or the exceptions that I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation, all right? But these ones that are here, except for finish again, David, they have to be with the gerund form.
Okay, teacher.
All right? Okay, good. Very good. So let's work, please, on the example so that you can see also that it works that way. One present, simple present or present continuous, one in simple past, the other one in present perfect, and the last one is going to be in future. Let's do it, please. All right. So, great. There you go. That's my cam. So we're going to check what you got. This time I'm going to start with you, Fabiana. This is yours, I think. Yes. So let's begin with you, please, Fabiana.
Okay, teacher. Sorry. I like teaching in church on Sundays. I don't enjoy cooking, but I have to do it. Chris enjoyed traveling to Paris last week. Peter will mind starting next year.
Okay, thank you very much, Fabiana. So let's check. All right. I like teaching. Good. Like is one of those verbs that we can use with infinitive or gerund, and it's going to be okay. All right. So we have the list here with like, so we can use like with gerund as well, and it's correct. All right. So in church, perhaps in church, I would change that idea to in the church. All right. And this one to the capital letter. All right. So I like teaching in the church or in my church, right, or in my local church on Sundays. But good, we have the idea of liking and the gerund. Then here, I don't enjoy. Good, this is negative. So we have two sentences in present. We're going to check. Remember, we need one in the present perfect. Okay, we're going to try to change one because both are in the simple present here. It says, I don't enjoy cooking. Good, comma, but I have to do it. Great. So again, both sentences are okay. The only thing is that both are in simple present and we need at least one in the present perfect. All right, this one is in the simple past. Okay, we're using enjoy again. Perhaps we can use something else, but with enjoyed, we are using it correctly as well. Chris enjoyed traveling to Paris last week. Okay, and this one, mind. Mind usually, if you say that Peter will mind, you are saying that Peter doesn't want to study, all right, next year, because there is something that is bothering him, all right, because mind is like, for example, do you mind if I sit next to you? You say, no, not at all. Okay, do it. So if you say in affirmative, will mind studying next year, you're saying that Peter doesn't want to study next year. All right. So is that your idea there, Fabiana? If that's your idea, it's correct. If not, perhaps you can change that to negative. And when you say in mind in negative, the idea is positive. What do you say about the last one, Fabiana?
Yes, this is my idea.
Okay, so your idea is that he doesn't want to study next year, right? Okay,
Yes.
good. So that one, the only thing, please, Fabiana, to check once again and to have all the instructions, try to change one. It can be this one, perhaps, so that you can use another verb, or try to add another one, all right? Because this is okay. Try to have one more with a different verb that is in the present perfect, all right? Remember, have or has plus the main verb in the past participle. All right? And we're going to check it. Okay, good. We're going to go now with you, please, David. Let's read what you got and let's see how it goes.
I enjoy listening classical music. I finished doing the dinner. Maria have recommended watching a movie tonight. We'll keep working on this project.
Okay, thank you very much, David. So let's check again. We're using enjoy. Good. This is the simple present. The only thing that is missing here, remember that listen is a verb that is always going to need the partner that is to, right? I enjoy listening to classical music, right? They are always going to go together. Listening to or listen to, it doesn't matter the form of the verb, it's always going to go with to. Then I finished. This is also really interesting. We use doing for more for academic subjects, more for academic activities, like, for example, doing homework, right, or doing a report that's related to studies or that's related to work. But when it's related to the thing that you prepare, right, It's better if we say making, right? Making or preparing the dinner. All right, that's going to change over there. Why again? Because do is more for academic activities, more for work or studies, and make is going to be related to using your hands to do something, could be in the kitchen or simply to make something. All right, again, using your hands in that way. Then in the next one, remember that Maria, as is third person, we're going to say Maria has, right? Maria has recommended watching a movie tonight. Good. And finally, we'll keep working on this project. And I agree with that one. Do you have any questions about these corrections, David? Let me know if you do, please.
No question, teacher.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, those are little details. But the idea behind these verbs and the gerund, right, is correct. And if you got to write that one, I think you got it, Fabiana. Let's read your last example, please, in that text.
Okay, we've liked going to the concert this Saturday.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think it works very good. We've liked, right, going to the concert this Saturday. Good. So again, we have those verbs, but we are going to remember that we have a list. And actually, I'm going to check that list with you right now. I'm going to show you that the list is in the first lesson of this unit. No, sorry, it's not the first lesson. Is this the infinitive? No, it's even before. All right, we checked that in unit 1. I forgot that one. So it's the last one over here. All right, good. You're going to see that you have a lot of options, but of course, it's important to memorize those little by little. This is the list. It's in the infinitives presentation, if you want to take a look at that. And of course, this is just one web page. You have a lot of web pages, but this is one that has a lot of options. So for example, all of these verbs are followed by gerunds, okay? Let's read some of the most important ones. Admit, that's important. Advise, that's also important. Allow, anticipate, appreciate, avoid, that's what we covered, right? We're going to learn about those expressions later on. Right now, let's not pay attention to that. Celebrate, confess, consider, the test, right? Discuss, we covered that one. Dislike, we also know that one. Enjoy, this is perhaps the most common verb that uses the gerund, is enjoy. Okay, escape, evade, explain, fear, finish. You have finish here, right? But we know that we can use that with more options. Keep, mention, mind, okay, object to. So, and well, actually, all of them are very important, right? I'm trying to read the ones that I believe you can use a lot. Omit, permit, practice, recall, recommend. Then, not that one, risk, suggest, support, understand, and urge. All right, all of those are followed by the gerund. Then you have the same, and this is for the infinitive. Here, again, you have very common verbs like agree, appear, ask, attempt. Then you have care. We don't use that much as a verb a lot, but you can take that into account. Choose, come, decide, demand, determine, expect, then hesitate, hope. That's very important. Hope, learn, manage, mean. This is a special also. You're going to learn that later on. But mean can be with infinitive and gerund, but the meaning is different. All right, needs, of course, you know that need. Pay, pretend, refuse, remain, say, seem, struggle, that's important, wait, want, wish, and would like, of course. All right, and that's it. So try to take a look at that list. Of course, you don't have to memorize all those verbs, but try to take a look at that in order to get familiar with the ones that are used with gerund and with the ones that are used with infinitive. Is there like something to know which verbs are like with gerunds and which ones with infinitives? Actually, is not going to be like a way to do it. The way to do it is memorizing these verbs, all right? And you can start by memorizing first these ones that I'm showing you over here. These are very, very common for the gerund. And also these ones, or the one that I showed you over here for the infinitive in this presentation. Remember? These ones over here. Afford, agree, decide, etc. All right, so try to memorize first the verbs that you have in these presentations, and then if you feel ready, you can go and take a look at this list so that you memorize even more verbs and you know when to use the gerund and when to use the infinitive. Okay, now we're going to go to the next part, and it's also the object, but this time instead of after certain verbs, you're going to use the gerund after certain phrases or expressions that are not the same when they are alone. Okay, because it's special and it's only in this case in which you use the gerund. Please, we're going to start with you, Fabiana. Let's read the first expressions that are marked, please.
Okay. We use gerunds after some special phrases. To be busy. He is busy reading the paper. Can't stand or bear. I can't bear being looked at. Can't help. I can't help eating chocolate.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. So busy, right? He's busy reading the paper. And this one, instead of beer, is going to be bear. So I can't bear being looked at. All right. So these are special phrases. These are special expressions, and they have to be followed by the gerund. All right, by gerund. Let's continue, and then we're going to try to understand. You're going to try to explain in your own words the meaning of these phrases or expressions. Please, David, let's continue with feel like and the rest of the phrases.
Okay. Feel like. We feel like having a cup of tea. Spend one's time. They spend their time reading. Worth. The book is worth reading.
All right. Thank you very much, David. So we understand to be busy. I think that's clear. We understand spend one's time. I think that's clear. Worth, I don't know. We're going to check. But the ones that I believe are important that we can understand are these ones over here. All right. This one, and this one. And perhaps again, we're going to check this one if we, well, if you tell me that you need to understand word, and if we see that perhaps something is missing about that expression or word. But let's begin with can stand and can bear. What is a synonym, or how can you explain that in your own words? And that's going to be for you first, please, Fabiana. How can you explain the expression can stand or can't bear?
Maybe when in this example, I can see that, maybe. The explanation maybe is I can see that, or maybe I don't have the possibility, or I don't have, I don't how explain, but is when people is not agree with an activity, or maybe don't like this.
Okay, thank you, Fabiana. Good. Yes, the last part of your explanation, I think, was very accurate. When you cannot stand something, is that you cannot really, first, that you don't like, as you said, right? That you really kind of hate, perhaps not hating, but you don't simply like that thing. For example, if you don't like, but you really don't like, all right, getting close to the idea of hate to, let's say, You hate to listen to, I don't know, I'm going to say something, right? Reggaeton. You don't like because you like rock music and you hate reggaeton. So you can say, I can't stand listening to reggaeton. Right? So I agree with you. We use can't stand and can't bear when we don't like something, but we don't like almost to the point at which we hate that thing, all right? Because we cannot, all right? We cannot be there listening to that song, or we cannot be there in that situation, for example, to be seen, right? To be looked at. You hate to go out and you hate when people look at you. So you can say, I can't bear being looked at, right? It means, in other words, that you hate when people look at you. All right, so good. Both mean the same then. I can't stand and I can't bear have, all right, both the same meaning. Good. The next one is going to be for you, please, David. Can't help. How can you explain this expression, can't help?
I think that the meaning is when we can resist doing a specific thing. Maybe I can resist eating chocolate. I can avoid it, or maybe with like the song of Elvis, I can help falling in love. That's an example, I think.
Very good. Thank you, David. Great, great. I always use that example. All right, the Elvis one, I can't help falling in love with you, right? Good. Exactly. You cannot avoid, it's impossible for you, right, not to do that. I can't help eating chocolate means that even though you try, you cannot avoid eating chocolate because you love chocolate, right? So again, this is hard for some people because they say help, but help doesn't mean that, right? But no, help is something different, and the expression can help is something else, right? It's the same as can't avoid. I can't avoid eating chocolate, sorry, because I love chocolate. So good, very good. The last one, and we're going to try to work with words together, but feel like. How do you explain that with your own words again, please, Fabiana? Feel like.
Maybe when I want something, it's all.
Exactly, when you want something, when you are in the mood for something specific, right? And it has to be something very specific that you want. So good, yes. I feel like going to the movies because you want to do it. You have that specific desire of going to the movies, right? I feel like having a cup of tea because you want it and you have that specific desire once again. So good. I think you don't have problems with this, all right? You explained them very, very well. The only thing you have to remember then is that after all these expressions, you have to use the gerund. I can't stand or I can't bear being looked at, or I can't help, I don't know, right? Feeling good or feeling well when I'm with you, etc. Right? Or I feel like doing something now. And the last one, worth, is something related to the value of something, that you believe that something is valuable, all right, when you do it. And it's, for example, the book is worth reading. It means that the idea of reading the book is very valuable and you should do it because it's going to be positive for you, right? This is a very common word in English. And again, we use the gerund after worth. So please, let's work with some examples, David and Fabiana. You have this clear, so let's only write two examples with two different expressions, all right? Let's go to the file, you choose which expressions and write only two examples, of course, using the gerund form. Let's do it, please. All right, so we're going to read what you got. Then we're going to go to the last part with the gerund. And then we're going to learn some verbs that are going to be exceptions to the rule. And that is very interesting and important that you know the difference between those. All right. So let's begin with you, please, David. Let's read your examples.
Okay. I can't stand listening that song. I can't help falling in love with my girlfriend.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Just remember once again, even though we're using the gerund, it's very important to use the particle to after listening, right? But the rest of it is very good. I can stand listening to that song, right? And I can help falling in love with my girlfriend. I think the rest of it is very good. Thank you, David. I'm going now with you, Fabiana. Let's read your examples, please.
Okay. I feel like going to the park on this beautiful day. She's busy reading this book.
Thank you, Fabiana. I have no observations, all right? It's very good. So again, that's then the two ways in which you have to use the gerund as object of your ideas. And why object? Because first, here you're using that as object of some verbs. Enjoyed living, discussed going. The gerund is the object of your verb. And here, not of your verb, but it can be the object of your adjective. All right, because these are some other expressions, even nouns. In this case, this is the object of your adjective, to be busy, and in this case is the the object of your noun, time, right? So you have the chance of using gerunds as objects of verbs, adjectives, and some nouns. But these are the most important expressions, phrases, and verbs that you should know. Now, this is the last usage for gerund, and then we're going to go with these special cases, as I told you. Prepositions. Let's read this one, please. Again, we're going to divide this in two parts. This time, let's start with you, please, David, by reading these first elements over there.
Okay. We use gerunds after all prepositions, no exceptions. Can you sneeze without opening your mouth? She is good at painting. She avoided him by walking on the opposite side of the road.
Thank you very much, David. So here we can see that we have prepositions. Without, that's a preposition. At, that's a preposition. And by. Every time after, right, we use prepositions, we got to use gerunds, right, without opening. That's the only option. We are never going to say without open, without to open, right? No, it's always going to be opening, painting, walking. And it happens the same with these next prepositions. And that's going to be for you, please, Fabiana.
Okay, teacher. We arrived in Madrid after driving all night. My father decided against postponing his trip to Hungary. There's no point in waiting. In spite of missing the train, we arrived on time.
Thank you very much. So that's it. Again, here, there isn't anything else for me to explain. Just showing you the idea that anytime that you have a preposition, you're going to use gerund, all right? And there's no exceptions for that, for these rules. Without, at, in, on, by, after, before, against, for, in, of, right? After any preposition, if you're going to use one activity, that is a verb, that activity has to be in the gerund form, all right? It means with ing. That's it. Let's practice, please. I think this is not going to be hard. If you have any questions about this rule, let me know. If not, again, to finish practicing with the gerunds, like one way of using the verb. Let's write only 2 examples, please, using a preposition and using the gerund after that preposition. Let's do it, please. All right. If you want to use some prepositions, you may also try to remember some collocations, right? We were saying that in the previous class. Remember, after think, you use think in or think, oh, sorry, you say think of and think about, right? Those are the only 2 possible options. The same for dream, right? Dream of, dream about. Then you say something depends on, right? And you are good at or you're bad at something. And you have other collocations like that in which you use specific prepositions and you may use, right, the gerund form after that preposition. All right, so we're going to take a look at what you get again. If you need some help or you have some questions, you can ask me when we are checking your job. So let's begin with you. I think you had yours over here, David. Yes, let's read your 2 ideas using prepositions and the gerund, please.
Okay. I will get a lot of money by studying hard. Kevin is good at cooking pasta.
Okay, thank you very much, David. I have no observations. Good. By implies the idea that this is the thing that you're going to do to do what you were saying before, right? In this case, to get a lot of money, right? The means is studying hard. So good. And then good at. That's the collocation that we were talking about. Thank you, David. No observations about it. And Fabiana, let's do the same with you, please. And let's read your exam.
Okay, teacher. We danced in theater after practicing all day. Despite losing my phone, I had a good time at a party.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. Okay, good. I agree with this. After, the thing is that perhaps when we say in spite of, right, of is like the preposition. Despite is going to be considered like a word, all right, but it's not going to be considered like a preposition itself, because it's like saying, instead of despite, you may say notwithstanding, all right, notwithstanding, and that's a long word. But the rule says that after despite and after notwithstanding, that they are like only one word. we have to use a phrase, right? And in this case, using a phrase can be using a noun. And in this case, the noun is losing my phone, right? So it is correct, but I believe that despite is not going to be applied in the idea of it being a preposition, all right? It's more of the idea of being a phrase after this word, okay? But again, we can add some extra thing. What other preposition can you use to use just by speaking, Fabiana, to replace the second example?
Maybe despite of losing my phone.
Okay, but again, the despite is only with despite, right? We cannot add of, because the rule says that we say despite or in spite of, right? So in that case, we are using of, and that's the preposition, and it says that we use the gerund. And here, this is correct, all right? It's correct. I'm not saying that it's incorrect, but I'm saying that the rule for using the gerund here is not the rule of the preposition, all right? Because despite is not going to be a preposition over here. So try to think of one more example. Instead of using despite, what other preposition can you use? And you can change the example if you want. All right, and in the meantime, this one is also correct. It's good. We're saying after practicing all day, we're just going to remember, as we're saying theater, we can use that idea unless that's the name of the theater. If the theater's name is theater, it's okay. If not, we are going to use that as the theater, all right, as the theater, in the theater. Or if you're using that as a general idea of a public place, then you can use also, instead of that one, the at, but that's not necessary, all right? Only the, just in case, again, this is not the name of that place. And we can stop using the capital letter and use only the lowercase letter with the article the, all right? So again, if you have the example, you can tell me, Fabiana. If not, we can go back to that.
We can, I can change in spite of losing my phone, but I have order after losing my phone, maybe, or before losing my phone, I had a good time at the party.
Okay, good. Yes. Thank you, Fabiana. That's correct. Okay, so this one is just because of that explanation, all right? That despite, yes, we have to use gerund, or we have to use infinitive, but we have to use a phrase after despite and after in spite of, right? But in this case, in spite of is using that preposition, and we are following this rule with that one. But in the case of despite only, it's going to be like a different rule, that is like using one noun or one phrase. And we know that when we use the gerund is not a verb anymore. It's only a noun, right? And losing my phone, it's going to be that noun. So good. After losing my phone, before losing my phone, in spite of losing my phone, right? And the rest of the idea. Great. Thank you very much. Again, if you have any questions about this, let me know. All the examples are written correctly, and all of them were very logic. Just be careful with those little details, but again, everything is working very good. Now we're going to go to the examples, or sorry, to the exceptions. And these are the exceptions. All right. Remember, forget, try, stop. You have at least 3 or 4 more, but they are not as common and they can be a little bit more confusing. For example, mean. That's something you're going to see afterwards, as I told you. But these are the most common ones, and these are the ones that are going to let you know that these exceptions are important to understand, because if you use gerund or if you use infinitive after these verbs, all right, it can be a big thing because the meaning of your idea is going to be different. And actually, that's the introduction, and that's what I'm going to read for you. Sometimes using a gerund or an infinitive after certain verbs can change the meaning of the idea, the main idea. Let's begin with remember. Please, David, help me out with the first part, remember plus gerund.
Okay. Remember plus gerund. This is when you remember something that has happened in the past. You have a memory of it, like being able to see a movie or of it in your head. I remember going to the beach when I was a child. I have a memory of going to the beach. He remembers closing the door. He has a memory of closing the door.
Thank you, David. So this is interesting. If you use remember with gerund, it means that you remember something that you did before. Okay, so on Monday, you went, I don't know, to a restaurant and you ate pasta. So on Thursday, or I don't know, Wednesday, you can say, I remember, right? I remember going to that restaurant and eating pasta. So you use gerund when you remember that you did something before, okay? But you did it. So you have the memory of doing that in the past. But it's different if you use the infinitive. And this is going to be for you, please, Fabiana. Let's read remember plus infinitive.
Okay. Remember plus to plus infinitive. This is when you think of something that you need to do, and usually you then do the thing. 1. I remembered to buy milk. I was walking home and the idea that I needed milk came into my head, so I bought some. 2. She remembered to send a card to her grandma.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. And if you notice, just by reading that, if you understood, perfect. If you don't get the idea yet, it's going to be as simple as that. If you say, I remember eating pasta, all right, you are saying that you ate pasta before, and now you have the memory of that past activity, right? I remember eating pasta. It was delicious. Okay. But if you say, I remembered, or I remembered, in a certain case, all right, I remembered to eat pasta, you say in that way that you were doing something, and then you remember that you told someone that you have to eat pasta, okay, because you want to try, you have to eat pasta. So when you say, I remembered to eat pasta, it means that at that moment, you remember, all right, you remembered that you have to do that action, but you didn't do that action yet, all right? So again, when you use gerund, you remember something that you did before. When you use the infinitive, you are remembering something that you have to do at that moment. All right. So I'm going to ask you to give me some examples. This time is going to be only speaking, and you're going to try to explain the difference once again. All right. Let's try to start with you, David. Can you give me yes, just an example using remember plus gerund, please, and then try to explain what you mean with that sentence.
Okay. I remember playing video games when I was a child.
Okay, very good. How can you explain that idea? I think it's clear because of the when I was a child, all right? But try to explain in your own words, David, very shortly. What is the meaning of that sentence? What do you mean when you say, I remember playing video games when I was a child?
That means I remember that I used to play video games when I was a child. I think it's difficult to explain in other words, but I remember something that happened in the past.
Okay, good. And that's more than enough. And using used to is also a very good idea, David. Thank you very much. That's correct. So when you use remember plus gerund, you remember something that you did, right? Before that moment in which you are remembering. So good, even used to, as I told you, right? When you say, I remember that I used to do that, it means that it's a past activity that is not happening anymore. So it's also related. So great. The same for you, please, Fabiana. Let's try to give one example using remember plus infinitive this time and try to give a short explanation about it, please.
Okay. I remember to go to my meet.
Okay, good. And how do you explain that idea?
Maybe I was in my house and I thought about my meet with my partners and I went.
Okay. And you went at that time, right? You remembered and then you went to the meeting, right?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much, Fabiana. So good. And that's, I think, very important to understand this one. Both examples, David and Fabiana, they were very good. And the way you explain it, right? Because it's easy. It's easy to understand. You remember plus gerund when you remember something that happened before the action of remembering, right? So first you did the action and then you remember that you did it. And to remember plus infinitive is that first you remember something and then you do that action because you remember that you have to do that, right? So good. That is remember. Something very, very similar, if not the same, I would say the same, it's just that you change a little bit, is forget, right? We're going to read just to notice how similar forget is to remember. Please, Fabiana, this time I'm going to ask you to read forget plus gerund, please.
Okay, forget plus gerund. This is the opposite of remember plus gerund. It's when you forget about a memory, something that you've done in the past. 1. Have we really studied this topic before? I forgot reading about it. 2. I told my brother that we'd spent Christmas at Granny's house in 1985, but he'd forgotten going there.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. So again, they say it's the opposite, of course, but it's related to the same idea. If you say forget plus gerund, it means that you are forgetting something that you did before, in the past, right? Hey, do you remember when we went to that place? And you say, actually, I forgot going there. And if you say that you forgot going there, it means that you don't remember, right? That you went to that place. It's as easy as that. And the next one, please, David, forget plus infinitive. Let's read that one, please.
Okay. This is the opposite of remember, plus to plus infinitive. It's when you want to do something, but you forget about it. 1. I forgot to call my mother. I wanted to call my mother, but when it was a good time to call her, I forgot. I was thinking about something else, and the idea to call my mother didn't come into my head. 2. She keeps forgetting to bring his book back.
Thank you very much, David. Now, I'm going to give one example this time, and you're going to tell me if the action happened or not. okay, happen or not at the moment at which I'm speaking. All right, if I say something in the past, at that specific moment, did that action happen or not? Like this. The first one is for you, Fabiana. If I say, I forgot, all right, I forgot to lock the door of my house. Did I do that action or not before the moment in which I'm speaking in the past, Fabiana? I forgot to lock the door of my house. What do you say?
Sorry, teacher, can you repeat me, please, the question?
All right, good. So for first example is, I forgot to lock the door of my house, right? And the question is, the action is to lock the door of my house. Did that action happen or not before that idea that I'm saying, Fabiana? I forgot to lock the door of my house. Did that action happen or not before?
Yes, this action happened.
All right, we're going to analyze. We're going to write, okay? Thank you, Fabiana. And we're going to see if it happened or not. So I'm going to write it over here. So it's going to be this time the same question for you, David. And I'm going to write this time the sentence. It's going to be, I forgot to lock my house. Okay, that one. So the same question for you, David. This is the sentence. And the question is, did this action happen before this like statement, David? Did this action happen before the moment in which I'm saying I forgot to lock the door or not? What do you say?
Yes, I think it happened in the past.
Okay, thank you very much. Then you're going to tell me what's the difference with this one, Fabiana and David, all right? I forgot. All right. So what is the difference between these two? What do you say? So it says to lock. Okay, it doesn't matter. Here it makes sense because we're learning, right? We can use with infinitive or with gerund. What do you say is the difference between these two, Fabiana? What do you say?
I changed my answer. This action don't happen before this sentence because I say I forgot to lock the door of my house, and next I go to lock the door of my house, but before I didn't lock my door.
Okay, good, great. And that's a great explanation, Fabiana. You're right. If we use the infinitive, it means that we didn't do the action, right? We didn't lock the door of my house, or I didn't lock the door of my house. So I have to do it. It means that the action didn't happen before this statement, right? But in this case, in the case of the second example, I forgot locking the door of my house. Who can explain this one? Try to do it you, please, David. How can you explain this one? If the first one is something that we didn't do, so we have to do it, what about the second one? How can you explain the second one, David?
I think that it means that we have forgotten locking the door. So we have forgotten and it's done. The door is open right now.
Okay, so in the second one, you're telling me that the door is still open, that is not locked.
Yes.
All right, let's analyze. What do you say there, Fabiana? Do you agree with David? David is saying that in the second example, the door is not locked. What do you say?
I think I am not agree I think locked is, sorry, I lock the door.
All right.
I
So
don't explain.
how do you explain that then, Fabian? How can you explain then the second one? Because I agree with the first one. Let's remember, in the first one, I forgot to lock the door. It means that I didn't lock the door, so I have to do it, right? So the door was not locked in the first example. In the
Yes.
second one, how do you explain it? Try to explain with an order of events, Fabiana. What happened first? What happened second? And how can you compare that?
Maybe I can say um, I was in my house. I went, but I remember I locked the door of my house, and next I went to lock the door, and finally I say I forgot locking the door of my house, but I locked the door.
Okay, thank you very much, Fabiana. I think it helps. Now we're going to try to complement, all right? Because again, this can be, it's simple to understand, but when we use it, it can be confusing, all right? So just to finish, because it's important to understand this one. In the first section, right, this is the first section, I forgot to lock the door of my house. It means that the door is not locked, right? But in other words, if you use the infinitive, it means that you didn't do this action. So the door is unlocked, is not locked. So I have to lock the door now, right? All right, so that's the first one. When we use infinitive, we forgot to do that action. So we have to do it now. But this one, actually, it's the opposite. I locked the door, all right? In this one, the previous action to this one is that I actually locked the door. All right, I locked the door. And then I forgot locking the door. I forgot that I locked the door. That's in other words, all right? When you use the gerund, you're saying, I forgot that I locked the door. But actually, the door is locked. All right. The only thing that happened is that you forgot that you did it. So you don't need to lock anything because it's already, all right, sorry, I forgot that I locked the door. You don't need to do anything because the door is already locked. It's just that you forgot that you did it. All right. Let me know, please, if you have any questions about this explanation. It's very important that you understand because it's the same logic with remember. When you remember doing something, it means that you remember that you did that action at the end. But if you say, I forgot doing something, it means that you forgot that you did that action. But if you say that you remembered to do something, it means that at that moment, you remembered that you have to do that action at that moment. But if you say, I forgot to do something, it means that you forgot to do that at that moment, right? And you have to do it now. Do you have any questions about this part? Let me know, please. What do you say, David? Is it a little bit clearer? Do you still have some questions or doubts about it? Let me know, please.
No, it's clear now.
Okay, thank you very much. And what about you, Fabiana? What do you think?
Now it's more clear.
Okay, that's great. That's great to know, David and Fabiana. So those are the two most common verbs that you can use with either gerund or infinitive. But again, be careful when you use them with gerunds or infinitives, because in this case, the meaning is different, right? And it can be very different. We have two more that we're going to try to understand in these 10 minutes that we have. But one is going to be for you to work at home, and you can try to write some examples, all right? The one that you're going to understand actually is try. This is going to be your homework. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, right? It's not a real homework, but it's something that you're going to think at home. And on Monday, we're going to talk about this. But now let's finish with stop. Please, Fabiana, you're going to help me out with the first part. Let's read stop plus gerund, please.
Okay. Stop plus gerund. When we stop doing something, it means the verb in the gerund is the thing that we stop. It can mean stop forever or stop at that moment. I stopped working when I was expecting a baby. Working is the thing I stopped. 2. My grandmother stopped driving when she was 85. Driving is the thing she stopped. 3. My boss came into the room, so I stopped browsing the internet. 4. There was a fire alarm, so I stopped eating and went outside.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. So this is the idea. If you use stop plus gerund, it means that you are finishing, that you are stopping doing that specific action. So if I say, right, I'm very bad, I'm going to stop smoking. It means that I am not going to smoke anymore, right? If I feel that I don't like my body, I have to go to the gym and I have to stop eating junk food. It means that I am not going to eat junk food, right? Anymore, perhaps, or at least during a period of time. So stop plus gerund means that you are going to stop doing that specific action. But with infinitive is something interesting, right? Because it's different. Please, David, let's read the infinitive with you.
Okay. Stop plus to plus infinitive. In this case, we stop something else in order to do the verb in the infinitive. 1. I stopped to eat lunch. I stopped something else, maybe working or studying, because I wanted to eat lunch. 2. She was shopping and she stopped to get a cup of tea. She stopped shopping because she wanted to get a cup of coffee. Sorry.
Thank you very much, David. So good. If you understand the difference, is very clear. If I say I stopped smoking, gerund, it means that I don't smoke anymore, right? I quit. I don't smoke anymore. But if I say I stopped to smoke, it means that I stopped doing something else, working, studying, and now I am going to smoke a little bit, right? I'm going out and I'm going to smoke. All right, so stop plus gerund, you stop that activity with ing. Stop plus infinitive, you stop something else to do another activity. All right, let's try to work with an example, and let's try to finish actually with you. You're going to give me the examples. I'm going to start with you, Fabiana. You need to decide which one, if you're going to use infinitive or gerunds, all right? How can you tell me using these expressions, Fabiana, that you don't, let's say, that you don't go to parties anymore? How do you say that, Fabiana?
Maybe with a gerund, I stopped going to the parties when I was 22 years old.
Okay, good, correct. I agree with you, Fabiana. The gerund is the best option. I stopped going to parties when I was, right, or when I turned 22 years old. Now I like to study more. Good. Now the next one is going to be for you, David. This is what you need to do. You need to decide which one. The idea is the following. You're driving and you pull over, okay, you pull over the car because you want to go to the bathroom. All right, you want to go to the bathroom. How can you give me an example using a stop with that one, David? You need to decide if you're going to use gerund or infinitive. What do you say?
Okay. I can say I was driving and I wanted to go to the bathroom, so I stopped to go to the bathroom.
Correct. Exactly. Thank you, David. So you are stopping one activity, in this case, driving, right? You stopped in order to go to the bathroom. So if you can add in order to, it means that it's always going to be with infinitive, right? Because you have to do that. And if you're using the gerund, it's simply something that you're not going to do anymore, or you're stopping for a temporary period of time. But usually something that you don't do anymore, all right? Most of the time. That's it. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to tell you about your, again, it's not homework, but you need to try to explain this. Actually, you have the explanation here, right? But you're going to try to use your words, your own words, David and Fabiana. You're going to read try. You're going to read the difference between try with gerund and try with infinitive. And you have examples and you have the explanation. But using your own words and your own examples, please, you're going to go, as we always do, all right, to the file, and you're going to first write a short explanation. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. You come here, for example, Fabiana, and you write. We use try with gerund whenever we want to do this and that, and we want to mean this and that. For example, and you give me only one example. And then you explain the same with infinitive, right? And we use try with infinitive when we want to mean this and that, for example, and you give me one example, all right? So please, that's for both of you. David and Fabiana, you read this one, and you're going to explain in your own words when we use try with gerund and when we use try with infinitive, and you're going to give me only one example for each. All right? Do you have any questions about that? Let me know, please, if you do.
Teacher,
Yes.
This homework for other day, or we do?
No, it's not for now. You're going to show me that on Monday. All right, okay. It's for Monday. All right. Now we have time. Actually, we have time to do it, but I think it's interesting that you can analyze this, all right, with the time that you got. And on Monday, the first thing we're going to do is working with this. We finish and we start the next lesson. All right. Okay, good. So if you don't have any more questions, I'm going to give you the reminder once again before leaving the class. Please remember that this is your score so far. Okay, this is what you got. Sorry, it's loading. Pearson, don't forget to check Pearson. Today at 11:59 p.m. is the last chance to complete the assignments for Unit 2. And this Sunday is the deadline again, Sunday, 11:59 p.m. to take the second quiz, all right? Here again, I'm showing you the scores that you got. Most of you, all right, have completed almost everything. If you haven't completed this yet, please try to do it after this class. And then you have tomorrow and Sunday to complete the quiz. All right, so that's it. If you don't have any more questions, please, today we have a different survey that is going to add only one extra question, David and Fabiana. I'm going to ask you to complete this one, please. And as soon as you do it, you may leave the class, all right? Thanks for being in this class. Have a great night, and I'll see you next week. Take care,
guys. Okay, teacher. Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye. Take care, guys.
Bye.
See you. Take care. Bye-bye.